Thank you for watching an episode of Straight Up Gay Talk. If you're a straight man or a straight woman, if you're a trans man or a trans woman, whoever you are, and you want your voice to be heard, please scan the QR code on your screen and let's have a conversation. I look forward to hearing from you. I love you all. Regina, what's your sexual orientation?
My sexual orientation is pansexual.
Okay. And what are your pronouns?
She and her.
She and her.
Yep.
Okay. And where were you born?
Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. And are you comfortable sharing your age?
I generally don't tell people that. That's one thing I don't. I will tell you my age since transition. It's been 32 years or 32 years since my transition. And on that subject, it's really interesting because my the last psychiatrist that I was interviewing with, or when I was going through a troubling time and was back into therapy, he said there's this theory that people that transition kind of restart their chronological clock. So, I mean, it's like, and my daughter says this all the time. She's like, yeah, you're not even, I mean, you're the same age as me because of the music that I like and because I have a problem with nostalgia. I don't like, and there are so many people that base things on age. And it's really sad because it really didn't have anything to do with anything.
Sure, sure.
And they're now finding out that our brains have neuroplasticity up into our 70s. So people that I've got friends that I was in school with, and you would think they're 20 years older than me, just
Right.
because the way they look, the way they act, they get stuck in their ways. So yeah, age is something I generally like. I don't usually ask anybody else their age. I kind of stay away
Sure,
from that part, but
sure. Do you
but I'm
remember
not 30.
do you remember your first memory?
Yeah, my first memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first memory was feeling like I should have been female.
Wow. So that was it.
That was my first memory. Yeah, because I remember that I was 3. This is when I started praying to God, and it was my birthday, and I had asked for girls' toys, and I got boys' toys, and I remember being punished because
So
I
you
was
prayed for girls' toys.
I no, I asked my mom and
Oh,
dad to
you
get me
did. You
girls' toys for
actively
my
asked.
birthday. I just remember, and I think some of that memory is aided by photographs that they had of me at that age. And you can tell on my face, I was crying because I didn't want GI Joes. I wanted Barbies.
Right.
And yeah, I remember being punished for that. And then I also and that's really the very first memory. And I don't have very many other memories up until kindergarten when I was 5.
Hmm.
But I remember that, I never really got picked on, like boys didn't pick on me or anything, but I just didn't want anything to do with the boys. And so in kindergarten, I was 5 in kindergarten. Um, and I always, they would separate the classroom and the boys would play with these toys, like the building toys, and the girls would play with the kitchen toys. And so I would always go to play with the girls and the kitchen toys, and the teacher would say, no, you have to go play with the building toys and the hammers and then saws. And, of course, they weren't real saws, but, the building things like blocks and stuff. And I wanted to play with the kitchen stuff. So those are my first memories. Yeah.
And you grew up in Ohio, and Ohio, correct me if I'm wrong, is a red state, right?
Oh, cool. Yes. Yes, it's a red state, and except for when you're near the campuses, like Ohio State University or any of the colleges, there are little pockets of blue around the
Sure.
schools,
Sure.
but out in the cornfields, no, it's
Eh,
scary for someone with purple and blue hair. Last time I
That
went
where
there,
you were? Is that where you were? Were you in the thick of the
yeah, for the first half of my
conservative?
life, I was mainly in the city area. But then, when my parents moved, I was in the seventh grade. We moved to basically out in the cornfield area. It was still a neighborhood, but it was a neighborhood that was surrounded by cornfields.
Okay. And can
Yeah.
you just talk to me in general about life, your what your life was like, not necessarily about your transition or your thoughts, or you're more than welcome to share that. But what was your life like from like 5 years old to pre-puberty? Like let's say whatever that is, like 5 to maybe 12 or
Right.
whatever age you
Yeah.
were. Can you
Yeah. I
talk?
mean, I got good grades. My first form of self-expression was poetry. I was also into drawing and painting, very artistic. And I would take songs. I couldn't understand what the singers were singing, and so I would write poems. I would write my own lyrics to the songs, and my mom would always say, "You're not singing what they're singing," and I'm like, "I can't understand them, so I'm going to sing my words." So I would write poetry. That was actually my first form of self-expression was poetry, and then at 9 years old, I lied and said I was 10 so I could get a paper route
Oh,
because I
okay.
wanted money to buy records. So I was deep into music from, I mean, my one of my first memories is my mom she had a room where she did her sewing and her ironing and everything. And when she was in there, she would play records on the record player. And she had an amazing voice. My mom had a beautiful voice. And I just remember being fascinated by her singing and just loving music. And so I wanted to buy records. I wanted money for records. So I lied, said I was 10. And that was the age you had to be to get a paper route. And I got a paper route, and it was all senior citizens.
Oh, wow.
It was a trailer park of senior citizens, 250 trailers. They were real close together. So it was easy to deliver, but I became friends with so many of them. And I think I took away my deepest life lesson from that experience because there were people, they were all in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and there were either happy people or they were not happy. And the people that were not happy were people that had not lived life the way they wanted to. And I had some of them even tell me, I can remember this one guy, his name was John, and he shuffled when he walked and he rolled his own cigarettes and he said, "Don't ever let anybody tell you what to do. You've got to follow your dream because I didn't follow my dream and I wish I could go back and do my life over again because then I would do what I wanted to do." And I remember thinking how terrible that must feel to get to the end of your life and think, "I wish I could do it again because I didn't do what I wanted." And so from that point on, my motto has always been to follow the voice inside. I wrote a song called Voice Inside. That follow your instinct and your intuition and don't let people tell you how to live your life because you don't get to do it again. And now even a lot of people even say this. They'll say when people are on their last breath and their deathbed, they never think about, they think about all the things they should have done or they could have done that they didn't do. And most of the time, it's because we listen to our teachers, we listen to our parents, we listen to our religion, or we listen to, society. And because I believe anybody can do anything. I believe you can do anything that you want to do. You just have to really you have to believe in yourself. Even if the world doesn't support you, it doesn't really matter if you get famous doing what you want to do. But that feeling of satisfaction that you get, I put out, oh man, I have over 100 songs that are published. And I've got, artwork that I've done, album cover artwork and sign artwork and illustrated books. And there's just so much forms of expression that I've done. I was trained to be an architect. That was what I was studying to be. But then one of my songs got picked for um, the senior class song, and then one other song got picked to be on this album of local talent. And so it was like, oh, wait, everybody likes my songs. Okay, skip being an architect because I wanted to be in music. And so basically, up until pre-puberty, I was mostly into music. I really liked animals because there were cows all around and dogs. And, always loved animals and being out in the woods because where my parents lived in this neighborhood that we lived in, behind us, there was a neighborhood here, that way, but behind the house was all woods. It was Ohio forest. And it was a forested hill. You went down this hill, the big, huge cornfield, and you went across the cornfield, and there was a big creek, which is like a small river. I don't know the word creek. A lot of people
Sure.
like creek.
Right. No,
Yeah, well, like a small river.
I got it.
And I spent almost all my time outside, even in the winter. I just wanted to be out in the woods. And then I read The Hobbit. I would think I
Okay.
was 10 or 11 when I read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. And then I fell in love with trees because of the tree ants and, because so much of that happens in nature. So I'm really still deep into nature and pets and music and art. Yeah. So that kind of formed my life. I
Yeah.
remember, I never thought I was going to be in music because like they gave us a test in school to see if we had a musical aptitude. And I remember they did this test in school to find out if you had music ability. And I scored, was the highest score in my class. And they tried to convince me to play the clarinet or the violin. And all I wanted to play was the drums.
Ah.
And the guy that had a meeting with my parents, like, no, you can't play drums. Drums are for people that don't have any musical talent. And of course, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, well then I'm not gonna then I'm not gonna play music. I don't want to. I want to play drums. If I can't play drums, I don't want to be involved. And so I didn't start playing guitar until, oh my gosh, 15. So
Okay.
I didn't really have an idea of being in music, until later, until I started to turn, because all my friends everybody was starting to play guitar. And this one friend of mine's like, hey, if you play guitar, you'll be popular, get girlfriends, you'll have, be really popular. And I'm like, okay, I want to be popular. So everybody started playing guitar, taking lessons. And one by one, everybody would quit and give it up.
Oh,
But I just kept going because I found out that I could write songs really easily, and I still can. I sit down with an instrument, and before I know it, I'm making up a song.
so it sounds like from how you're describing your life from approximately 5 years old to pre-puberty, whether it was 11, 12, or 13, it sounded like you had a relatively happy, healthy life. I
Yeah,
mean, you have creative outlet. You were writing poetry. You were learning music. Would you say that you were generally an optimistic kid?
yep, totally. Yeah, super optimistic. That's my mom. My mom was super optimistic. My dad was authoritarian, um, former military. He yelled all the time. It seemed like that was his favorite thing to do was yell. He was just super corrective and very restrictive and prohibitive. And crying was sissies. Boys don't cry, boys don't hug, boys don't say I love you. I mean, he was really, really not, I didn't like him. I didn't like my
Sounded
dad.
like kind of like the dad in American Beauty that berated his son for
Yeah.
like being. I don't know if you're familiar with American Beauty, but
Yeah.
the father who was a military father, he was consistently berating his son and telling him, "Hey, like calling him the F word and all that." And then he ended up at the end of the story, making a pass at Kevin Spacey's character,
I remember it.
and then he killed Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
So like so much irony in that storyline.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, and my dad was never, I got spanked a lot. That was the thing back in those days. They don't spank kids like they did, but I got spanked a lot, and it was for stupid things. stupid things. Just like I remember I wanted my dad to play with me. I wanted to have him play with me and my toys. And so there was a day that, he finally said, "Okay, I'll play with you." And we started playing, and some knock on the door, and there was one of my cousins came over, and then another cousin. Before I knew it, he was playing with all the kids. It wasn't me. I never got, my dad didn't say "I love you" until, gosh, my 30s.
Oh, wow.
He was not, he would hug, but he would hug really short and then want you to get away from him. He was just, I used to always pray that I would have somebody else's dad. Like my cousins, I liked their dad better than mine. And then I had a neighbor and I liked their dad better. And I was like, I wish my mom and dad would get a divorce so I could have a better dad. And my parents argued all the time. My dad was really mean to my mom. He was just not a happy guy. He
Mm.
just was not happy. And yelling was his, way of interacting with the world. He's still alive, 94, 95 now, I think. I haven't spoken to him well, since June, because he won't use my correct name and he won't use my correct gender. And I put up with it for the longest time. And then in counseling, found out that it actually damages us when people don't respect us and we continue to let them treat us with
Sure.
disrespect. And so I sent him a letter and I said, "Dad, until you call me the right name and the right gender, we can't have anything contact with each other." And the sad thing is that my mom now has dementia, and she was my best friend, and we used to talk almost every day on the phone. But
Right.
I can't get to her without talking to him
Right.
because he always picks up the phone. So yeah, it's a dilemma, but it feels a lot better not having that. It's cruel. I mean, it's just cruelty. And I remember other things my dad that were, when I was a kid, he would say things like, "Well, if it was a fire in this house and I had to pick between saving you and your brother or your mom, I'd always pick your mom. I just want you to know that." And then he would say things like, "I never wanted to have kids anyway." And his form of humor was sarcasm.
Mm.
So I just never really, as I grew older, I started to feel sorry for him
Mm.
because I could tell how unhappy he was really with life.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so not a very good relationship with him at all, but with my mom, yeah. And
Would
she
you
was
say
so optimistic,
would you say he was abusive towards you?
psychologically abusive, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, physically abusive. Well, I got spanked a lot, but everybody did. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I spanked my daughter once and I almost threw up. I never spanked her again. It was the worst feeling in the world. And it was for using all the Mr. Bubbles in the bubble in the bath. And she was like 4 or 5. And I spanked her butt and I like only hit her a couple times. And I was like, "Oh my God, I can never do this again. I can't, I don't, I wanted to throw up." Because my daughter is just she's so amazing, always was. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say physically abusive as much as psychologically abusive. Yeah. Yeah.
But if he was spanking you, that is a form of physical abuse. But
It is
I guess it depends on when did he stop doing that?
probably 9 years old.
Okay.
Our amygdala is formed basically by the age of 7. Our threat encoding, our amygdala is basically that's what we end up with for the rest of our lives. And so the first 7 years of the neurological development of a child's mind, basically shapes the way you see the world for the rest of your life. And you can do all kinds of things to overcome things and retrain yourself and reframe life and but the way that you're treated up into from when you're a kid till a baby till 7, that really kind of cements your threat assessment. And so I realized in therapy, um, that because I never got my dad's approval. I remember my dad saying, "Good job," one time. I did. I swept up some sawdust when he had done some woodworking. And he came down, he's like, "Oh my gosh, you did a good job." And the fact that I remember that, I was like 7 or 8, and that was the only time I ever got his approval. And that,
Nothing after that?
well, yeah, after other people approved me, he would chime in. He
Mm.
wasn't really proud of me. He was proud of my brother. My brother was a sports kid. He was the pitcher and the quarterback and the center, and he was like the star on every team. And my brother and my dad ended up working together for 30 years in my dad's business. So, they became best friends, but they're both really unhappy people.
Is your brother straight?
Oh gosh, yeah. 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 And he and his wife became they're basically they're pretty far right.
Oh,
You know,
they're MAGA?
Yeah, I don't know if they actually voted for Trump, but they identify with the far right Christian conservative. Like they won't call me a female name, they won't call me a female gender.
Uh,
Even after my daughter asked them, said, "Every time you talk to me, please don't say my dad, please say Gina. You don't have to say my mom, but just say Gina." It freaks her out. It's trauma to her because her mom used to punish her for calling me mom.
wow.
Even though the court made an order that said nobody's allowed to tell your daughter, nobody's allowed to tell the minor child how she addresses either parent. The child addresses the parent the way they want to. She still continued to punish her for years, for
How did
years.
you punish her?
By correcting her and yelling at her. Again, like I was saying, I know on my dad, the point of my dad, I realized that because I never got my dad's approval, I grew up as a people pleaser.
Hmm.
And so I looked for everybody else's approval. I looked for my dad's approval in other people. And it made me a super achiever or an overachiever. I felt like I had to be the best at everything I did just so I could get outside validation. And, a lot of us have this problem where we don't validate ourselves until outside forces validate us. And,
Right. Hmm.
it's a sad place to be, but it happens to a lot of us. So that's why we end up, a lot of times when we get married, we end up marrying someone who is a copy of that parent that didn't give us love. Because after I changed gender, I was only with men. And then about 4 years ago, I fell in love with a woman. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm pansexual. All right, whatever. I'm changing again. Or maybe I've always been that way. Whatever. I'm super accepting of myself and I'm very open-minded. And I'm not about trying to fit a mold or what people think. But ended up that she was a yeller and she was abusive, vocally abusive too. So I had to get out of
This is
that
the girl
relationship.
you fell in love with 4 years ago.
Yep. And we were
Okay.
together almost 2 years, about a year and a half, 2 years.
Hmm.
And it just got to the point where she would have these outbursts, and just start yelling. And not only me, at her kids, at her mom. I mean, it's like, oh my God, you have a problem. You need to get counseling. And she wouldn't. She was like my dad. My dad didn't believe in that head shrinking stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the people that don't believe in it, the irony is everybody around them ends up needing counseling because they won't get counseling.
Right.
So yeah. So yeah, I had an optimistic mom. She was amazing. I mean, she supported everything I did. She went to every gig I had. She memorized all my music. She encouraged me. She was my best friend. I mean, she still would be if I could. I mean, when I've talked to her recently, like in June, when I talked to her after I won the awards for the play, um, you can't really tell she has dementia, except for she doesn't really remember what she just told you. So you'll get in a conversation and she'll talk about stuff, and then down 5 minutes later, she'll tell you that again. Or you'll say, "Oh, well, you just told me that." "Oh, I did?"
Uh,
So, dementia is like, oh God, I hate that. Dementia and Alzheimer's have to be some of the most painful experiences because she knows she has it. she's aware that she has it. But she's still happy-go-lucky and she still laughs a lot. And, she just,
Good.
yeah.
Is she still married to your father?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They are together. Yeah, been together. Oh my gosh. 30, no, 60 years or so.
Mhm.
Amazing.
Wow. I mean, there's something there.
Yeah, well, I always felt sorry for her because she was very low self-esteem. And so, my dad, he like kept, her in a box
Mm,
um, until a certain period of time where they got two cars. And once they got two cars and she could go where she wanted to go,
mm,
then she spent, probably the last 15, 20 years, she had very independent. She would wake up in the morning, put her makeup on, put her clothes on, and go out and do stuff. And my dad sit there and watch TV, always watching the military channel and turning the lights off to save money and turning the heater off to save money. It was just always about saving money. And that's a form of trauma as well, a form of abuse. I didn't realize that until, I told my psychiatrist I was diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but SAD. And basically, you have an aversion to cold and dark. And when the seasons change, you get depressed because there's less sunlight and it's colder. And
it's like being
uh,
in Seattle, like the grunge
yeah,
era. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. And I have that. And that was made worse because we would get in trouble if we left the light on. We would get punished if we left the light on. And instead of running the heater to heat the house, he would turn the heater off and he would close all the doors and make everybody wear sweatshirts. And if you were in front of the TV, you were warm because he had the space heater right there. So he would use a space heater just to heat the front room. And I even did the math. And I said, Dad, you're not saving that much money. You're actually spending money to reheat the house every time that you turn the heater on.
Mm,
But he grew up in a scarcity environment.
right.
And when people grow up in a scarcity environment, when there's not enough money, it creates that mindset that that comfort is luxury,
Mhm.
when in reality, you deserve to be comfortable.
Sure.
You know, you deserve to, you deserve a vacation. You deserve to enjoy life. And I learned that early on. I mean, as soon as I moved to California, that's one of the reasons I've been here for them for
Mm.
almost 3 decades, because I was done. I remember I was little, I was watching TV. I was probably 6 years old. My brother had just been born. So I was 6 or 7 years old. And I was watching TV. It was the winter time in Ohio. And they were showing people in bathing suits. And it said live, live TV. And I asked my mom, I'm like, Mom, where is that? Where people are wearing bathing suits in the winter time? She goes, That's California. And I'm like, why do we live here? Why don't we live there? I want to live there. So yeah, it started early for me.
So, you mentioned you have a brother. Do you have any other siblings besides your brother?
Nope,
Just you
nope, just
two.
one. Yeah, he got COVID. He was anti-vax, anti-mask,
Oh,
got
wow.
COVID really bad, and he got what's called catastrophic tinnitus from having
Oh,
COVID, and that means he hears a very loud all the time.
right,
And he also lost his sense of taste and his sense of smell.
right.
And so when that happened, it had been 30 years since we talked, and that was a real devastating thing for him to experience. He started drinking again,
Mm.
smoking cigarettes. I mean, he went back to the before he was the religious extremist. He went,
Oh,
regressed. Then he started calling me. And I remember the first time he called me, I mean, I started crying because I always wanted to reconcile with him.
sure.
I'm one of these people that I just want to forgive people and get beyond it, and let people make mistakes. And if they admit their mistake, I'll forgive them. But he wouldn't call me the right name. He kept calling me the wrong gender, wrong name, and I kept trying to correct him. And he wouldn't respect that. And
How long ago was this?
the first call was probably 2023.
Okay.
And then we talked, every once in a while he would call me when he would get really drunk. And he just wanted to talk about the old days. And I can't stand to talk about the old days. I want to talk about now and talk about what's happening now. It's like when you're around people like, oh, the problem with kids today, they don't have music like they did when I was growing up. And I'm like, oh, the music right now is better than when you were growing up. You have a bias. People, I mean, there are bands in their 20s and 30s right now. They're way better than the bands were when I was growing up.
Sure.
They're and to have that mindset that the only good things are the things that were when you were, a teenager or a young adult. That's a closed mindset. That's people that are embracing their age as a validation of them being better than kids, and they're not. I mean, I can name 10 bands that are in their 20s and 30s that blow away Led Zeppelin and blow away Aerosmith. And yeah, so I can't really listen to any of that old stuff. I have to listen to new music. Gives
Got
me anxiety. It's like, wait, why am I listening to this? I go to this coffee shop in Burbank and they play this music from the 60s and the 70s. I have to put earbuds in and headphones because I can't hear Leonard Skinner anymore. I just can't. No.
it.
I mean, I get it. There's a lot of people, they like what's familiar. When I went through a period of life, I had this thing called anhedonia, which is the inability of the brain to produce enough positive neurotransmitters. It's similar to depression, but it's not really officially a depression. I found out that the best way to get out of anxiety and depression modes is by challenging your brain with new things.
Right.
And so that's when that started for me. That was about 10 years ago. And so I would just go on YouTube and find bands that I don't know.
Right. You'll get like some kind of adrenaline dump and your juices
Yep.
start flowing and
Yep.
then all of a sudden you're like happy and euphoric. So,
Yeah, there's a band called Knower, Knower. I really like them. They've been around about 10 years, maybe longer. And there's a band Polyphia, and there's Unprocessed, and there's a guitar player named Pliny. I mean, there are so many new artists out there that, I meet people all the time, like, give me your phone, I'm gonna make a list. You got to listen to this stuff. You got to get off that old shit.
can you take me to instances whether you can be general or specific where you had contact with the opposite sex and the same sex and when you were discovering your pansexuality?
Yeah, pansexuality I only discovered recently, but yes. So the first girl I kissed was in kindergarten. Um,
Okay.
and her name was Gina too. I remember her. She was cute, and I really liked girls. I didn't like boys. I was not
Okay.
gay at all. I didn't want to be with guys. And so for most of my like my elementary school. I didn't have girlfriends. That wasn't really a thing. But when I got into eighth grade, I had a lot of girlfriends. And they would always break up with me because I wouldn't have sex with them. So I was really didn't, I would kiss, I would make out, I would do everything, but I would not have sex. I
Why
didn't
is that?
want babies. I thought it was against
Okay.
God to have premarital sex. I was raised Catholic. So, premarital sex is not good. You can kiss, you can touch each other, but no sex, no intercourse. And
Was it because
so,
of the religion that you said no, or was it because of
yes,
your sexual? Okay, so
yeah,
it wasn't because of your sexuality necessarily.
no, it wasn't. No, I mean, I liked kissing girls. I liked making out with girls. That was fun. I mean, that was my favorite thing, actually. So yeah, I had many girlfriends in middle school and in high school. And I only had sex twice before I got married. And that was only because I got drunk. They got me drunk, the
Girl,
girls.
both girls.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep. Yeah, I never had any encounters with men until I started my transition. And I only did that because I was trying to figure out what I was. I mean,
right.
because once my ex-wife decided because she knew about my gender fluidity before she got married, I don't think I would even got married to her if she wasn't accepting of that.
Sure.
But then at one point she decided to have an affair, and then she told me she can't be married to another woman anymore. And I hadn't had surgery or anything. I was still male, but then she decided she wanted to move out and she wanted to start a new life. And when she had that premarital affair or extramarital affair, I told her, I said, okay, you know what? I'll give you an open marriage. How about that? How about we stay married, we keep the band together, we keep our family together, and if you need to have other sexual partners, that's okay. I'll let you have that freedom. You
Okay.
know, I didn't want to be divorced.
Sure.
I didn't want to break my daughter's family. And she said, she said, okay, we'll try that. And it was like, but you have to do it too. And I'm like, oh, but I don't really want to have sex with other people. But
Oh,
I had a chance encounter with a man, really strange how it happened, and it devastated me. I mean, I came home and cried all night and everything because I'm like, I don't want to be unfaithful to my wife. I don't have, I'm not a polygamist. I can't have more than one affection at a time. I just don't feel natural at that. And so it wasn't until she moved out, and I started living as female, then I I got a boyfriend pretty quick. But
like some people would think that, oh, because you're a trans woman, that when you transition to becoming a woman, that you might, um, have a proclivity to be with another man. But that wasn't your journey.
no, well, no, and I remember my psychiatrist when he suggested that I try the real life test, and I said, "Does that mean I have to be with guys because I'm not attracted to guys?" And he said, "Has nothing to do with who you sleep with. That's sexual identity. We're talking about your gender."
Okay.
So yeah, with men, it was only after I transitioned. And I
Okay.
really thought that, like, I was open-minded to it. I didn't not like women. I always liked women. But like I told my psychiatrist, I wasn't interested in men. And as soon as I started my real life test, started presenting as female, changed my name January 1st, changed my name and and wore female clothes, nail polish, makeup every day. It's like you don't take that off and go back to being male. You have to stay. The idea is, are you going to be happy in this other gender?
Mm.
And I remember the second day I went to the grocery store, and a guy opened the door for me when I was going into the grocery store, because it wasn't the automatic door thing, and was really nice to me. And then he kind of followed me in the grocery store, and then when I went to check out my groceries, he was behind me and asked me for my number.
Oh, wow.
And the lady that was the cashier,
Hmm.
she knew me. She knew me as a man. She knew me because that was my neighborhood. I mean, I transitioned in front of everybody. It's
Okay.
like I just because I felt like that was the only way to do it. I mean, the only other way would be to move to another city, and I couldn't do that to my daughter and have to change her friends and
When he
everything.
asked when he asked for your number, did he think that you were a woman or a man?
Yeah. Oh God, he thought I was female. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I actually told him, and
Right.
he'd like step back a little bit, and he's like, "No way." And I'm like,
Oh, you told him right then and there.
"Oh yeah, I didn't want to
Oh,
get
that's not, I
killed."
mean, that's nice of you. That's like, I think the ethical way to do it.
Well,
But
yeah, it was also the safe way.
yeah. Mhm.
I was really worried that to be with a guy that didn't know that, because that was even before I had surgery. So my body was not, I mean, yeah, I didn't want to take any chances on being beat up or worse.
Sure, yeah.
Because, there's a lot of guys that get aggressive when they find out that they are attracted to a trans person, especially if they don't know right away.
Right.
But then I took an ad out in the LA Weekly in the personal section. And back then they had men seeking women, women seeking men, men seeking men, women seeking women, and then either. And
Oh,
I put an ad in the either column that said preoperative trans woman looking for friends and possibly more. Because as I was, I was with my psychiatrist the whole time. He's like, now that your ex has moved out, you've got to figure out what you want.
yeah,
You've been with her for 12, 13 years.
yeah,
Do you want to be with guys? Do you want to be with girls? And only guys answered that. No women answered that ad. And so for the next month or whatever, I went on a lot of dates
yeah,
with guys, and they knew because they read it in there.
yeah.
And that's how I met the boyfriend that I had for a couple of years.
I think that's a good note to end on. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Straight Up Gay Talk. Thank you for watching an episode of Straight Up Gay Talk. If you're a straight man or a straight woman, if you're a trans man or a trans woman, whoever you are, and you want your voice to be heard, please scan the QR code on your screen and let's have a conversation. I look forward to hearing from you. I love you all. If you like, comment, and subscribe. My pet giraffe, who has pancreatic cancer and has had one stroke and two heart attacks, will survive.
So long, gay boys.